So I'm sharing a few thoughts around my experiences, my life experiences about myself as designer, but also the role that design plays, which is so much more than what we think it is today. When I started as a designer all those years ago, I played a very minuscule role. Nobody asked me, how do I change the hiring process in my organization? How do I change the learning and development departments? So nobody asked me those questions. I was a support player in design. Today, I am happy to say that I play a lot more front and central role in the organization. I make decisions for the organization. But the question all of us should be asking, if we are businesses, or should be asking our organizations if we are designers, is this: does your designer have a seat at your table? Is he playing a front and central role in defining the way forward for the organization? Does he play a role in hiring the right kind of people? Does he play a role in the culture of the organization? Those are the questions that you've got to be asking, because if they were playing a front and central role, you would be riding what is called as the D wave. So today a lot of organizations ride the D wave. So if you ride the D wave, the chart as it says here, so they would be 228% above the S&P index over a 10-year period. So that's the kind of numbers that you can see when you start riding the D wave, or when you become design-led. So that's the stuff that you can see. You would be 80% of the organizations that are design-led release new products and services in the market over a period of 1 year. Okay, 83% specifically, they see an increase in market share. 80% of the people have entered international markets. If you're design-led, again, so there are some companies which are design-led, many of them are not. Those who are design-led have these kind of numbers to back them up. The company that I work for, IBM, have also seen some staggering numbers. So there was a study done by Forrester and IBM about the total economic impact of design thinking practice in IBM over a period of 3 years. And what you see are those numbers. So we saw a 300% return on investment, 301% to be precise. So for every dollar spent on design, we saw $3 returned to us. So we saw 2x faster time to market of our products and services. We are now sitting at a 36.6 million NPV, net present value. Our development time has reduced by 75%. Design time has reduced by 33%, where we have employed design thinking in our organization. So numbers speak for themselves. Numbers tell a story. A lot of organizations want to hear numbers, and here they are. They're serious numbers that change the course of organizations. But what I'm here to tell you is that design brings so much more than just numbers. If you start looking at design from numbers alone, you're making a mistake. That's what I'm here to tell you. Because if I tell you that businesses today are running really smoothly and everybody is happy, I'm sure most of you don't agree with that. There are a lot of challenges. So how do you acquire the new age millennials the taste of your brand? How do you let them acquire the taste of your brand? How do you make them relevant? How do you make yourself relevant to all these different new age people coming over? How do you deliver your products and services across those numerous channels that come every day? There are lots of things that is happening. The biggest challenge that people face today is not only all of these things, but actually it's this. It's tomorrow. Because you don't know what is tomorrow going to bring. And I mean literally tomorrow. Because when the Apple's watch just now launched, right, I think a lot of these ECG machines that were laid out in these hospitals, you suddenly, I think, saw them shedding a tear or two, right? There are millions of dollars that are spent to buy these ECG machines across, all these hospitals. But now you can get that in 2 minutes on your watch. So what will happen to all of them? What will happen to those people who are dependent on them? Where do you need to be today so that you are in the right place tomorrow? What do you need to do today so that you are actually reaping the right rewards tomorrow? Where do you go today so that you're in the right place tomorrow? So those are all the questions that businesses are today struggling with, because in 2000 there were many companies which are on Fortune 500. They don't even exist today. Half of them don't even exist. In 18 years later, they don't exist. It's not that they are not Fortune 500, they just don't exist. This has caused a lot of CEOs, our own company, IBM, to give you an example, 50% of the things that we did 5 years ago, we don't do today, right? Or we do 50% new things today, let me put it that way, right? In 5 years, a large organization, IBM, it's 100-plus-year-old, hundreds of thousands of people work in IBM. That organization, 50% of that organization is a new organization in the last 5 years, right? So that's the kind of world that we live in. Therefore, the CEOs are wondering, what should I do with this technology? How should I get new forms of growth and non-traditional forms of growth and so on? And the majority of these CEOs are wondering with these questions. Literally, we are in the world of chaos, right? So we are in chaos today because we actually don't know exactly what's happening. Yeah, every day there is something new. So that's where design comes in handy, because design is what provides clarity when there is chaos. Design is so much more than numbers, and specifically 3 things I want to talk about what design can offer to business. When you say business by design, design offers 3 things specifically, and I'm very happy to share those 3 things. First one is meaning. It offers meaning to organizations and businesses. Second thing is it offers resilience, which is a function of culture. The third thing is perspectives, wide variety of perspectives. When you put that together, you have a business that is functioning, that is long-lasting, sustainable, and that is doing some meaningful work. Man's search for meaning has been eternal. So if you ask Yuval Harari, he will say that the crisis of mankind today is not artificial intelligence, or it is not about people losing jobs, etc. But the biggest crisis is the crisis of meaning. Because we actually don't know why we exist. That's what he will tell you if you ask him. We don't know why we exist, why we came on earth. There were a lot of other things that gave answers to that. There was religion that gave answer. There were some other things that gave answer before. But today we are in a crisis of meaning. Now I don't know if we can solve that right now. I don't think I can do that with the humankind's problem of meaning, but design has been solving that problem for businesses. So providing meaning for businesses. Because what design does is first of all, it is a journey of self-discovery. So that is something I have learned myself over my periods, my experience in Sapient as well as in IBM. It begins with a journey of self-discovery. If you look at Indra Nooyi, so design thinking became very big in Pepsi because there was a journey of her own discovery, first of all. So like that, the leaders have their own, discovery that happens, and then the organizations go through the same change, teams as well. A similar thing happened with this gentleman. This gentleman's name is Carlos Pastor Jr. He was in his swanky apartment in New York. He was working in Citibank as a vice president. One day he gets a call from his father, Carlos Pastor Jr., Senior, and he calls him. He says, why don't you please come to Peru? So they are from Peru. He said, please come to Peru, work in the bank that I have acquired. I've acquired a small bank in Peru. Can you come and work with me? So Carlos Pastor, rightly so, or understandably so, he says, how do I come there? He was a little reluctant. A large organization, Citibank, vice president, going from there to a very small country and a small position in that particular bank. I don't think it was very compelling for him. But what compelled him to go, or made him to go, was one line that his father used. He said, why do you think it's a small bank? Think of this bank, the Interbank, as the 25th largest bank in Peru. So that's why I told him, so don't think it's a small bank, but it's the 25th largest bank. Just change in orientation. That's what happened to him, and he picked up that offer, and then he joined his father in 94, 95, and he started working with Interbank. In a year or so, Later, he actually took over the whole bank because his father passed away, and then he ran that bank, Interbank. From then on to now, it's running very successfully. From 25th largest bank, it became the fourth largest. It is now the fourth largest bank in Peru, but by far the most profitable. They were the first ones to introduce internet banking in Peru. And not only that, as he sees here, I mean, he actually is looking at building an ecosystem of services for the middle income group or the middle class families, because this is an emerging group out there. And he believes that if they get stronger, there is democracy that gets stronger in Peru. This in a country which has seen 22 military coups. Right? So that's the kind of country that they live in. So democracy, what we take for granted, is something that's not a, that they can't take it for granted. So that's the thing that he believes, that's the meaning that he's looking for. What started as a great project, as he calls it, the Interbank, has now become the Intercorp Group. They have supermarkets, and they have a lot of other things. Along with that, they're also looking at the future. They're looking at these schools called the Innova schools, which are the K-12 schools. They've worked with IDEO to develop these, innovatively, they've developed schools called the Innova schools as well. So they're looking into the future, they're looking into the current ecosystem. They're essentially empowering the middle income groups, middle class families in Peru. They've also gone beyond that, and they also started what is called as the La Victoria Lab, that claims this as their mission. We improve the lives of Peruvian families through human-centered innovation. So that's the story of Intercorp, which has embraced meaning into their business. And they do that, and that's what they are there for, not only for profits and more money, but actually to change the lives of people. So that's what happens when you get meaning embedded in businesses. I also want to talk about another important factor called the resilience. Resilience is the ability to get back up from when you fall down. So that's what is resilience. There is no other example of resilience, better example of resilience than Airbnb. Airbnb at one time, they were actually about to close down. They had no bookings, and I think in the first year they were deep in debt, and they were seriously questioning why they should even exist. But then, as Brian Chesky says, the design is in their DNA. It's not something they add on afterwards, right? So they have built design into their DNA. So to do that, they went through a lot of challenging times. One of the things was whether to follow these traditional business models or to question them and change them. So what happened with Brian Chesky was a lot of business consultants, like they advise others, they told them, you know what, any idea that can't be scaled up, you should, I think, not go with that particular idea. Go with ideas that can be scaled up. So one of the ideas was to, of course, have photographs on Airbnb. So Airbnb has a very strange business model, right? They sell somebody else's home spaces to somebody else, and they make money. So it's a very strange model. So they had to put up the pictures and photographs of homeowners on the website. They said, okay, how do I scale this idea? So I'll ask the homeowners to take those pictures and send that to Airbnb. When you do that, what happens, as we all know? So it was all over the place. Each homeowner found his home differently from another, and it was all over. So it did not build trust. So they did not get a single booking. So he defied that logic of scaling the idea from that perspective and said, okay, let me first get the right picture. So Brian Chesky took a camera, went to these homeowners' homes and started clicking pictures. So it is quite strange, the CEO of this organization coming and taking pictures. And most importantly, it cannot be scaled. He cannot go to those millions homes, eventually. So how do you do that? But the point that they believed in was not about 1 million people liking us, but 100 people loving us. So that was the idea that motivated them and empowered them. So they said, okay, let me get this right. They took those pictures, and then they started working on that framework to start with. Now we know where Airbnb is. So that's how they work. Pixar also has an amazing culture, creative culture that they talk about. Ed Catmull talks about in the Creativity Inc. So this is their, in a way, process, right, of making sure that they have the right kind of culture. The first thing is belief that people are talented. So, I mean, that's something all of us, I think, we believe in our own teams and organizations. If we are hiring non-talented people, there is a problem with hiring, right? So, I think we believe that all the people are talented. But the second one is very interesting. So, what he says is, we do things as leaders of organizations to stifle talent. So, but that's kind of a revelation, because all of us are trying to do things to enhance talent, not to stifle. But the fact is, he says, we probably are doing things without our knowledge. For example, the words that we use, the kind of questions that we ask, the kind of messages that we pass, they're all invisible. So the other day I was in a conversation in LinkedIn, and on LinkedIn somebody said, what is the right kind of resources should I hire for product company versus a service company? So, what should this resource have when I'm hiring for product versus service? So my answer was, first of all, don't call them resource. They're people, right? The resources are software, hardware, chair. So they don't have emotions, They don't have blocks. They don't fight with people. They don't have road rage. They don't go for maternity leave. But people do. There is a difference. So that's what I said. So, that's the whole point, right? When people call people as resources, it sort of looks like you're some sort of entity. So those kind of little things, you may not want to do it purposely, but you do it, and that's how you stifle talent, is what he says. And thirdly, of course, to remove those impediments. That's his process. He says leaders have to always keep thinking about it, that I'm probably doing something that will stifle the talent. So what can I do to remove those impediments? That's Pixar. For you, I was in Amul in Anand in Gujarat just a couple of years ago, and I saw a wonderful phenomenon. I've never seen that anywhere in the world. I was sitting with a CMO, and the CMO showed, a Twitter feed, his Twitter feed, and he said the new poster of Amul has been released. Okay, I said, okay, how did you approve it? When did this approval happen? He said, no, we did not approve. I did not even see it before now. Now I'm seeing along with you. I said, how does that happen? Don't you review what the creative agency shares with you? He said, no, we don't review. That's the kind of freedom we've given them. That's the kind of trust we have in them. Right from the time they were hired as a creative agency from, many decades ago, from Mr. Verghese time, they don't review creative campaigns and their posters, etc. Their the current affair take that they have is completely the agency's take. But Amul stands by it. They don't let them down anytime, even if there are controversies. That's the difference. They have complete trust. I have never seen anywhere, I don't think in any other organization, anywhere in the world, the marketing team lets a creative agency to take a call on how that thing should be. They generally review. But here they said, okay, let it go, and then, we have the courage to stand by. So that is very fascinating. That kind of courage is what is needed for a resilient company. How many of our companies can boast that, right? So that's what I mean by resilience. The third thing that companies can benefit from design is through perspectives. So the kind of perspectives that designers bring in, or the design brings in, is very different from what you would traditionally have. So we worked with this organization called Godrej Furniture. We worked with their new furniture line called Script, so which is now live. When we worked with Script, so Script was not thought of as not envisioned to be another furniture line. But it was more of activities and ecosystems that you build. It was home within a home. So that is the way the concept was. It was something very new. It does not exist anywhere. So to do that research, to build those different perspectives that is there, it was very difficult. So we did not have another competition to actually go and do some research on. So we went to those places where these people would probably go, like the Kalagoda Cafe, right? Where are the places that they might go? And that's where we went. And then, we tried to understand, we tried to bring in different perspectives. The other thing I want to talk about is this, right? So this prompted me this question: what does furniture company have to do anything with self-driving cars? Right? What does that have to do with any self-driving cars? This is fascinating because Space 10 is the innovative labs of IKEA, and they're experimenting with 7 different concepts right now. One of them is, for example, so what they believe in is this: when you have autonomous vehicles, the way it looks is different, the way it feels is different, what it does is very different from what we know today. The way it looks itself is different. For example, you might have a moving cafe, to go from one place to another. You might have an office space within, so you might be working while you're moving. Or we keep traveling all the time. I go to Mumbai all the time. Why should I waste carbon footprint by taking a plane? Why can't I just use hotel on wheels? Yeah, so I just sleep here in Bangalore through the night. It goes to Mumbai, stops where I have to go. Then I finish my stuff, right? So that's the concept that Space 10 is working with. Cafe on wheels, healthcare on wheels, so that you can reach people that is very difficult to access to, and so on. So Space 10 is working on all those different perspectives that they bring to the table from that aspect as well. So again, very different ways of thinking. So that's the point I'm trying to make. I want to share that design has the ability to unlock new forms of value that we not yet know about. It has emotional value it can bring in, it can ethical value, moral value, right? Environmental responsibility, that has a value. So you could look at different values that design can unlock for businesses. And that is what I would like all of us to look for. And I have a small chart that I want to share with you. I want to leave you with here. You can of course use design as form giving. You can create products and services that you love, and so on. So that's something that you can definitely do beautifully. But also, if you go a little further, when you use design as process, you could look at how do you uncover human insights and actually accelerate growth in that entire ecosystem. So that's something you can look at, or going further, you could actually transform the society itself when you use design as strategy for your business transformation. So you could change the whole societies, like the way Intercorp is doing, or like the way Patagonia is doing, for example. So you just drive transformation within the society. So the power of design is not restricted to numbers. It is not restricted only to profits, but it is much more than that. And that, I think, is our responsibility to bring home to people when you start doing business by design. I think this is where we need to look at ourselves and see where we stand and where we want to go from here. That's all I wanted to share with you. Thank you so much for listening, and this is my ID. Are there any questions? Yeah.
So you had mentioned about 301% ROI. So how do you calculate an ROI for design? I mean, this would probably make business very happy with.
Yeah.
I'll just repeat my question.
Yeah, I got it. The question is, how do you calculate the ROI on design, the 301%? How did that happen? What we did was we calculated the investments we made on design. So for example, the design teams we stood up, the efforts we put in building design thinking practice in that area. So we kind of contained it on those places where we're using design and where we don't use design, and then that's how we calculated the ROI. Every dollar spent on designed work was what we calculated, and then what it eventually led to.
So next question is that you told that in IBM in past 5 years you had 50% changes in the whole work style, right? So from design point of view, design thinking point of view, what exactly went in that part? Like when you say 50%, what exactly changed over there?
Yeah, so 50% of the things that we do are new now. Like for example, we do a lot of artificial intelligence work, and we do a lot of...
Sorry to interrupt. I meant specific to design thinking.
Yeah, I know, I'm coming there. So specifically to design, a lot of things actually. So we started using design for working with our clients more effectively and to change our products and services. But the value of it was so much that we've now revamped the hiring process. So we've revamped the way people get onboarded. We're looking at talent very differently. And you name it, everywhere we use design thinking. So design thinking is our vehicle of design in IBM. So we use that in every place of IBM. So our HR leader in our organization, so she has 3 or 4 people who are design thinking facilitators in her own team. They're embedded in the team. Security has design thinking practitioners. Okay? Every field of IBM, every place we work with, we put design thinking people in there. So we still have a long way to go, but then I think we're ahead of a lot of other companies in that way.
Any more questions?
Any other?
Okay.
Yep.
When you say that HR and securities are now actually are using design thinking, how did you convince them for this?
Yes, so it is hard. It's a great question, actually. So I don't want to recollect the pain that I went through, but the fact is we did. I mean, it was a lot of hard work in the beginning, but once they see value, it's the initial tip of the spear, right? The initial tip definitely has the biggest wind against it, so it takes the maximum effort to go there, but once you get in, they'll see the value. So it was about showing them value with small changes, incremental changes, and that is what we did initially. So in every place, with small things, we kind of, we used all kinds of possible aspects of it, whether it was, coercing, by force, by incentivizing, different kinds of things that we did. I think there was a question there. We have more time?
Is really quick. So in continuation of his question, take that particular example, how long it took for you to convince people from like actually having people in their team?
So, I mean, how long?
Or any other example, like 50%. So take any, but how long? Because why I'm asking is, I'm working in my organization to take, right now, where are we as a UX maturity model? So to the next level. So I see it is for 1 year. So that's the reason I want to ask.
Okay, so I mean, I must say it was fairly quicker than I expected. Okay, but then we still have a long way to go. So we started this journey on design in the organization 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, 4.5 years ago is where we started this entire journey. So today I'm showing you those numbers that was there. But we still have a long way to go from an organization perspective. So if I take you a smaller example like a team, it takes probably for us anywhere between 6 months to 2 years for a team to completely transform and being design led. So I've been associated with IBM for more than 3 years. When I started, none of the people in my department understood it. When I say design, my department, I lead the design, but there's a part of the IX, which is a much larger organization. So nobody understood design, but in 3 years, I think we do everything being design led. So if I take that as an example, and we are a very large department actually, so I think it's a fair assumption to say it's about 2 years, 2.5 years it took to actually change the mindsets of people. Have we done it completely? Not yet. So we still need to inculcate that mindset. But if it was fairly much quicker than what I expected. That's the truth. So I thought it'll take much later, much longer. It has the snowball effect. It has a good effect. So you do a few things right in the beginning, and it has a snowball effect.
Any plan to write it in a paper or publish it?
So the total economic impact of design thinking by IBM is published. It's available everywhere. Just look it up. Total economic impact, Forrester and IBM study. So it's all there. But yeah, I mean, we do talk about it. Design. I've written about design culture in organizations. Yeah, we keep talking about it. Yes, we can do more. Yeah.
Thanks.